Hi Priya, let's take a look at this new set of essays you've sent us. The first one is your task 1. Here's what you wrote. The bar chart shows the information on shoes sales categorized into 2 types, brown leather and black leather, in 9 different European countries in 2018. The only thing I would change here is the. I would get rid of that. Overall, it can be seen that you don't need a comma here, okay? And I probably get rid of the comma here too. Generally, you need to know that we try to avoid using excessive commas. There are certain places where you absolutely need it, but there are definitely places where you do not. So this should read, overall, it can be seen that the black leather shoes were the most popular in Hungary and Italy, while France is the least. Okay, now, get rid of the, okay, and then here, this is awkward, this expression. She said black leather shoes were the most popular in Hungary and Italy, while in France, they were the least, okay? Because everything else in this sentence here, this is past tense, so this should be past tense. And you're not referring to the right thing here. So while in France, they were the least. Similarly, Poland constituted the highest sales. No, that's not right. Sales in Poland were the high. It's just awkward. It doesn't mean what you think it means. Start again. Poland constituted the highest sales, or how about this? Poland constituted the country with the highest sales for brown leather shoes, whereas Belgium, not Belgium itself, but its sales comprise. You see, there's awkwardness, and I see that you're trying to use some more advanced language, but it's not working for you. So stick to something maybe a little clearer and more accurate for sure. So similarly, Poland constituted the country with the highest sales for brown leather shoes, whereas Belgium was the least. Okay? That probably would have been better. It is clear from the chart that, again, no comma here after that. You've done this now a second time. It is clear from the chart that the sales for black leather shoes accounted, ED, for approximately 140,000. I don't understand why he said out of 150, which is the highest. That's awkward. Get rid of this. Okay? 140,000, which was the highest. Highest what? The highest figure on the chart is what you want to say here. Followed by 120,000 sales, Italy in 2018. By contrast, brown leather shoes became the most popular. No, they're not a brand. It's just a shoe color. So brown leather shoes were the most popular in Poland with sales. Get rid of its. And you can't talk about rising because you don't know that they rose from something else in 2017. We don't have any figures from 2017. So you don't want to use anything that shows motion, that shows rising, which shows declining, or anything like that. So, and again, became, you don't want anything showing some sort of motion or action or change. What you really need to be working with here is the language of comparison. So, let me try it one more time. By contrast, brown leather shoes were the most popular color in Poland with sales of 135,000. Full stop. It can be seen that Belgium had, again past tense, the least amount of sales of brown leather shoes with only 5,000. However, this figure was tripled. Let me see. Standing at nearly 110,000. I don't understand this. No, I don't understand this. What are you talking about? It was tripled for what? For black leather shoes? It's just not clear. And again, not tripled because this again shows like change. We're not talking about change. So if you were referring to black leather shoes here, it should have been this figure was 3 times as high for black leather shoes, etc. Now, whereas cannot be used like this. Whereas needs to have 2 clauses, or if you would prefer 2 sentences joined together by whereas, showing contrast. So this, if you did that though here, that would be way too long. So instead, let's say, however, In France, the sales of black leather shoes accounted for only 25,000 in 2018. Okay, so Priya, clearly I had to correct quite a bit in terms of grammar. The grammar was somewhat problematic. It needs to be definitely revised in this essay. However, the thing that is even more problematic than the grammar here is your task achievement. And the reason why is that we know that there are 9 different countries, but according to my kind of informal count, you did not talk about all 9 countries. Now, that might seem like a detail to you, but it is in fact very important information. You've told us that there are 9 countries, but you only really talk about, I think, like maybe 5 of them. We can check together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think that's it. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so that means that we have absolutely 0 information about those other 4 countries. We don't even know what countries they were. And that is considered key information. Without that information, you cannot get above a 4 for task achievement. So that's a huge problem. You need to refer to those countries, even if just once, by name. And ideally, you would give us some sort of information about it. Now, there are easy ways to do that. If you had included the task, I would show you here. Okay, but I have actually found it, so let me just tell you really, really fast in just a few words how you can do this. Basically, use the numbers along the side, okay? So when you're talking about black leather shoes, you could say that 3 countries had black leather shoe sales between 100 and 150,000. Then you can say that, you know, Hungary had this, Italy had this, and Belgium had this, okay? Then, another good place to then move on to is then to say under 50,000 shoe sales were recorded only in 1 country, specifically France, at this. The rest of the countries, namely UK, Germany, Ireland, Holland, etc., all had between 50 and 100,000 black leather shoes sold. All right, so it's really quite simple to include all that information. It's just a matter of grouping. And you have to group in something like this because you have 18 pieces of data. You can't use them all. You can't refer to them all specifically, giving each like its own sentence. So you have to do some grouping here. Okay, so those pretty much are the big weaknesses here in this essay. The grammar for sure, but also the task achievement, which like I said would get you a low score because you didn't mention the key piece of information. All right, let's move on here to your task 2 about the Olympics. Here's what you said. Sports have played an important role for building bonds between nations, get rid of the, for the past several centuries. Experts throughout both the developing and developed world have debated whether the Olympics has a greater impact. Has a greater impact than what? Careful. You want to say something else here. You want to say have debated whether the Olympics continue to have a great impact. Because when you say greater here, it's like you're making a comparison, but you're not comparing it to anything. I personally believe that Olympic Games are more necessary than ever before, since we are witnessing a new level of enmity between nations, get rid of that, and motivating the youth to stay positive. No, this doesn't make sense here, motivating the youth to stay positive. You want to say something like, and we must motivate the youth to stay positive. That would make sense, but what you've written here does not. This essay will discuss the issue using examples from the Australian government and Oxford University to demonstrate points to prove arguments. Fine. On the one hand, there is ample evidence that the present century is going through massive turmoil with various countries, and the only way to reduce this global tension is through Olympic Games. The central reason behind this is twofold. Firstly, these games provide a platform for all the nations to come closer through their sportspersons. Okay, it would be nice if you could explain that. What do you mean? How? All right, why? How? All of these things together. Secondly, these sporting events are a great place for the leaders of different countries to meet with each other. For example, if the Australian government recognized, either one, Olympics is a place for global peace, the tension between countries, get rid of the, can be diffused. Thus, without these games, the concept of world peace would be highly impossible. Okay, this is all fine. I mean, obviously you didn't back up your first main idea here, and we already talked about that, but I find that this is a little over generalized, okay? You need to temper some of your language and make it less kind of absolute. So it would be highly impossible. I mean, that's very absolute. That's a very absolute statement. So I want you to temper a little bit, hedge your bets a little, as it were. And in fact, it doesn't even collocate, because impossible is considered an absolute adjective. It's ungradable, so it can't be highly impossible. Something is either impossible or it is not. You could say unlikely. That would be okay. Not impossible. Let's move on. On the other hand, the Olympics are an excellent way to keep the youth motivated in this 21st century. The 21st century. This is largely because youngsters today, get rid of the, are in the grips of anxiety and depression, which often results, get rid of the ing, in consumption of drugs and alcohol as a remedy. In order to keep them in the right direction, the Olympic Games provide an excellent outlet as they use their energy for constructive purpose. For example, recent empirical research by Oxford University, demonstrated that 90% of the young people who participate in national games, I don't know why we're talking about national games, because the Olympics are international, so I'm not really sure where this is relevant, we're more focused to channel their energy in the right path by abandoning drugs, which often kills mental health issues. Okay, that doesn't make sense. What kills mental health issues? Abandoning drugs or drugs? So I'm very confused. Therefore, it is conclusively clear that the impact of the Olympics undoubtedly acts as a guide for the youth in the 21st century again. It's a little too similar to your previous, your first sentence here. Okay, I want to look at something one more time. Okay, so you said that, let me just double check. Okay, fine, that's, all right. So, your main idea here is that the Olympics are a great way to keep youngsters out of drugs and alcohol. What I don't understand here is if you mean only the Olympic athletes, or do you mean even the spectators of the sport, or do you mean anybody involved in sport? So what's happening here is that this paragraph is not completely coherent, okay? I didn't totally understand it. You're saying that the Olympics Games provide an excellent outlet. For whom? For the actual Olympic athletes? For those of us watching the games and at home? It doesn't make sense, especially when you say for people to use their energy. So I'm not really sure what you're talking about here. It's just not coherent. So it's a paragraph that definitely needs to be corrected and needs to be worked on a little more. I want to read your conclusion, then I'll tell you one other problem I had. To conclude from the arguments and examples given, I firmly believe that the Olympics are a necessity in the present century. It is predicted that these Olympic Games will be instrumental in maintaining global peace and keeping the youth motivated. Okay, again, with the youth motivated, it's just not clear what you mean. Are you saying that like the Olympics provide a goal for young people so that they get involved in sports, and then they have the Olympics as like this kind of ultimate goal, and so it's like a motivator? It was very confusing, that whole paragraph. But there's something else that I want to draw to your attention. It's this here. You say on the one hand and on the other hand. That doesn't make sense, because this linker is appropriate if you're showing two sides of the argument, which you are not. You are showing two sides of the same side. So what do I mean here? I mean a positive of the Olympics and a positive of the Olympics. So to use on the one hand and on the other hand doesn't work. What you could have said is firstly and secondly, honestly, or something else. But this is absolutely wrong. So that had some problems. All right, so I really want you to correct these essays. I want you to, take the suggestions that I made and revise these essays, send them back to us with your next set of essays, and I'll be waiting for them, okay? Good luck.